Hey guys, Nate Best again, back with another video. This time Angela and I wanted to do just sort of a update video and sort of more of a sort of one-on-one discussion, podcast style video to just kind of talk about some stuff that's been going on. Obviously there's been a lot of change in our lives, as you noticed in the last video. So we just wanted to kind of fill you guys in as to what's been going on, what we're struggling with, what we've been learning, and share some opinions on some stuff that's been going on. So we wanted to kind of do this. Might be a bit of a longer video, so if it is, I apologize, but hopefully you guys will enjoy the content anyway. So yeah, I mean, like I had said in the last video, we did just have our baby girl Zoe about 4 months ago. She was born January 25th of this year, and it's definitely been a interesting experience. We've learned quite a bit about ourselves, and our patience has definitely been tested throughout this time, but it's been remarkable to go through. I mean, obviously being a parent is just something completely new to us. It's a completely different experience than what we've ever gone through in the past, and I don't think I would really change much of it. Having this little person that you created completely under your care is just a completely it changes all your priorities, because obviously you're no longer only focusing on yourself, or we're not only focusing about each other, but we're also focusing on another human being, and all of the decisions that we've made over the last 4 months have been based on the good of 3 people and not just 2 people. So that's kind of been where I've been going with everything lately.
Yeah, I think pretty much the same thing. I feel like you no longer think of just yourself, or you don't think of just Nathan. You think of all 3 of us together, and how everything that we do as a family is what we do, all 3 of us. And I remember, I think it was like the night before last or something, and we're like, oh, we heard all these sirens going by our house, and we're like, okay, let's go check it out. And we're like, wait a second, the baby's sleeping. So we couldn't just get up and go and, do something like that spontaneously. It's more like, we got to plan this out. And today, when we went for a family walk at a nearby park, and we were like, okay, so when should we go? And then we had to sit there and calculate, okay, so the baby goes down for a nap at this time, then she feeds at this time, so do we leave it this time or do we leave it that time? And so I think that everything that we decide to do as a family is now based on a schedule, or at least somewhat of a schedule. And you can't just get up and go and make a day of something. It's more like, how does this fit around her schedule? And what's the easiest for her? What will make her less agitated? What will make her less fussy? I think that's sort of where we've been kind of learning along the way.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more logistics involved in something as simple as just going shopping or going out. Like, even just the 2 of us to go out together, that's not really something we can do as easily anymore, obviously, because, we have to plan. Like, we can go out, the 3 of us, for dinner, assuming, again, that it works in line with the baby's schedule and when she goes down, when she gets fed, things of that nature. But if the 2 of us just want to have a night out, we have to figure out somebody to look after the baby. So, it's either a babysitter or family and friends to help us out with that. And to be honest with you, I've been a little bit apprehensive to even ask anybody to babysit, for 2 reasons. One, I don't want them to feel like we're taking advantage of them. And number 2, I just don't know who to ask, because part of me is still feeling on edge around anybody looking after the baby that isn't us, just because, are they going to care for the baby the right way? Are they going to do things our way? Are they going to do things differently? And all those little unknown things make things a little bit more difficult to be able to just say, oh yeah, this person's going to look after the baby and it's going to be great. We've had our parents look after the baby once or twice, but beyond that, it hasn't been that much time away for us, which, it is what it is. But I feel like by having this child, it makes me feel more fulfilled, because now I've got another person to be responsible to in a good way. It makes me feel that I've got somebody who will look up to me, somebody who will model after me, somebody who I can sort of set an example for. Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different dynamic around here now. The dog has adjusted well to her for the most part. I know she definitely doesn't get the same level of attention that she used to get when it was just us two and the dog. But I think overall she's okay. I mean, she's acted out a little bit, but overall I think she's adjusted well. She loves the baby. Every time the baby's on the floor, they're constantly just like.
It's almost like she like protects her. Like every day when I'm putting our baby girl down for whether it's a nap or bedtime. Bedtime is the biggest thing. She needs to sit. Like she needs to be in the nursery, and if she's not in the nursery, she at least needs to be sitting at the doorway. It's not in front of the doorway. It's not in the hallway. It's not, it has to be at the doorway of the nursery. And it's such a strange thing, it makes me kind of wonder, like, what is she thinking? Like, is she protecting her as though, Zoe is her own, or is she, finding a different kind of bond? It's such a crazy thing. Like, I never thought for a second that, like, I knew dogs were smart, and I knew dogs were very intuitive, and they're very emotional as far as, creating a relationship with a human, but I just never thought a baby. Like, I just never knew that they would be that protected, like.
I think the reason she's picked up on that duty in a way with the baby is that she knows that we look after Zoe. We treat her as though she's like this little fragile being that we're constantly in charge of, and that's exactly what we are. Is we're her parents, and that means that we're responsible for her well-being. But that dynamic has obviously been observed by Stella, and it's sort of translated into her own behavior to sort of mimic. So she sees us essentially looking after the baby, so she feels she needs to help look after the baby, which has been fantastic. I mean, honestly, I could not have asked for a better dog to be with a baby, because she doesn't nip at the baby, she doesn't bite the baby, she doesn't bark at the baby, she doesn't freak out at everything. The only real issue, if you want to call it that, is whenever she hears somebody at the door, whether it's me or our neighbor or a stranger coming to the door, she instinctively wants to bark and stir up the house, even if the baby's sleeping. So that obviously can be a bit of an issue. But I would say definitely beyond that, I don't have any concerns with the dynamic between Stella and Zoe, because they've become such a good pairing together. Stella always wants to lick Zoe's face. She always wants to sort of see, hey, what's this little thing that Mom and Dad brought into the house? Yeah. It's kind of a new little toy to play with. It's like, no, it's a human being, but she doesn't know that. Well, at least I don't think she does. She might, who knows. But anyway, nonetheless, she basically feels that this is a new person in the house that she can spend time with, play with, get to know, all that good stuff. And it's just become an interesting thing to observe in terms of the way the dog and the baby have been interacting with each other.
Yeah. I kind of, going back to family, I kind of wish our parents kind of lived a bit closer. I mean, I never thought I'd ever catch myself saying that, to be honest. I love my family to pieces, but I like my immediate family at arm's length, if that makes sense. And we live I wouldn't say several. We live quite a bit of hours away from either side of our family. And, something so simple as being able to go to a movie. I never realized, I knew having a baby, and I knew having, creating a family for ourselves, going to the movies is not always the number one thing that you can do. But I never realized how much you really appreciate your family living close by until you have a coupon to go see a movie at a discounted price, and it expires really soon, and you can't really go.
Full disclosure, this is not us trying to ask anybody to babysit for us. We're just sort of venting our frustrations. We got these great coupons that we have wanted to use for over a month now.
Yeah.
And because we're both very self-conscious around just asking people because we don't want them to think we're taking advantage of them, and B, obviously I don't really feel like paying for somebody, especially if I'm saving. I feel like if I'm saving money with a coupon, but I have to spend money to hire a babysitter, it just becomes like
you're not really saving.
We're not saving any money, right? But no, it's definitely interesting to see. Oh yeah, let's go to a movie. Wait, that's not really all that doable because we have this little tiny human that can't really just hang out in the theater.
The only way to
hours.
make it work is if you had a day off during the week, but you don't. The only day you have really is Monday, and I guess I wouldn't even call it a discount because it's not a discount. Although Cineplex really should make it a discount, to be honest. But anyways, Stars and Strollers. But there's only one theater in the Hamilton Ancaster area, which is in Ancaster, not Hamilton, or Burlington, and they play two different features on a specific day of the week, and you work at all of those times. So I mean, I could have seen Deadpool, and I could have seen the Avengers. However,
notice she's plugging all the movies that I want to see.
That's just it. Like I could easily go on those days to see the movie and bring Zoe with us, but then this one over here would be jealous as anything that I saw those movies and he didn't. But he works during those days, and that's the only time. The Stars and Strollers thing is the only way that I think the two of us are going to be able to go to a movie. Because, I mean, his family lives 2+ hours away, and my family lives 4+ hours away, and I mean, there really isn't an opportunity to go in the evening, and there's not an opportunity to go during a different day.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely more difficult for us to plan those types of outings out. But anyway, I feel like a lot of this sort of segment has been focusing on a lot of the negative stuff in terms of how our schedules and our lifestyle have changed. But to be honest with you, it's been just so much fun having a baby. Like, the things that you get to see and the things that she does, which may seem like completely just random and not all that interesting to other people, have become like the craziest things in the world to us. Like, oh my god, this baby made a new sound today. I wonder what that is. Or like, hey, the baby learned how to roll over from her back to her stomach, like we showed in the vlog last week. It's like, those little things may seem completely minuscule to everyone else, but to us, these are like huge milestones that we just never really thought we'd pay so much attention to until we actually started having the baby. And then even just the one thing that I've missed out on, I've missed out on quite a few things just because I work all week, but it's become a thing now where, Angela's sending me messages at work or pictures or videos or whatever of the baby doing all these new milestones, and I wish I could be here to see it, but again, because of work, I'm not here as often with the baby. I miss seeing the baby laugh for the first time. I miss the baby's first roll for the first time. Like, there's so many things that I missed out on.
You missed the roll for the first time? I didn't think you did.
I missed one of them. I think it was the stomach, the back to stomach, or back to stomach. No, it was.
Yeah,
it was stomach to back. I missed.
To back.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that's my crux for being the working parent while Angela's off on her leave. But in all honesty, it's like one of us has to make that sacrifice. So. I feel like Angela made a sacrifice by taking the time off work. I made a sacrifice by not being here. So either way, depending on how you look at it, there is some sacrifice from one of us.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy to go from, like, this little nugget of a human that really only for several weeks really only like pooped, peed, eat, sleep, and let's do it all over again a few hours later.
With the occasional vomit. And then now she is, 4 months later, she is like so alert and so fascinated by the simple things in life. Like, I mean, the bare simple, like the leaf blowing in the wind. Like,
so simple. And the way she laughs at it is just so cool to watch. Like,
Yeah.
you take the simple things in life and you think, oh, but then you see her and she thinks it's the craziest thing. Like, I'll be driving and I don't know what's more distracting. The fact that we have a mirror thing that I can actually see her, which I don't really check on her unless she's crying, and I'm usually at a light. But I don't know what's more fascinating to hear is her giggling and talking to herself, or her just looking out the window all, gazing and staring and smiling while I'm watching her through the mirror. Like, it's so cute. Like, I'll be driving down the road and all I hear is all these jibber jabbers that she's doing and or trying to say, and it's just, and she's not quiet about it. She's quite loud about it. And that's super fascinating. Like, it just melts my heart every time. I don't know what it is.
It's actually funny you say that, because I've been sort of struggling with the whole feeling of self-consciousness around her making those types of sounds when we're out in public. Just because I feel like for us, it's hilarious. Like, we love hearing her make all these little coos and caws, and it almost sounds like she's trying to have a conversation with us in her own little baby language, but I almost feel that, like, I forget where we were. It was like a few days ago. Might have been at the mall. Anyway, we were somewhere, and the baby was just making all sorts of noises. And normally, if she was to make those noises in the house or in the car, I would just laugh nonstop. But then I started noticing I was starting to feel more self-conscious around it, probably because I felt that nobody else really wanted to hear those noises, and I was just we were just kind of being like a distraction to other people enjoying or trying to do whatever they're doing. I mean, nobody said anything. It's not like anybody was like, "Hey, your baby's too loud." It was like my own head was telling me that this could really be annoying to somebody who's just sitting there trying to enjoy themselves. And
well, it's funny because I was at a store dropping those shoes off, and I was at the store and she was loud. Like, I mean, not uncontrollably loud, and she wasn't fussing. She was just talking and jibber jabbering and whatever, but she was making these sounds quite loud. And at first I was like, shh, don't be so loud. And then I thought, screw it. You're making these crazy sounds that are super fascinating for yourself. And she's learning these sounds. Like, she's learning them as a development. I'm like, if you're going to disturb the store, you're going to disturb the store. Like, I mean, you just let it out, baby girl, because, I mean, they were so cute. And, I mean, how do you tell a baby to be quiet? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You just can't. I mean,
exactly.
you really can't tell a dog to be quiet. You really can't tell a baby to be quiet.
Well, I mean, like, I think to an extent that I think there's probably is a certain level of understanding from outsiders, like, especially when you're in a place like Toys R Us or the Disney store, or places that are constantly surrounded with little kids. Like, they probably are used to seeing those little faces and hearing those little voices all day, that for them it just becomes white noise. It's probably more like, let's say we were at like a fancy restaurant for dinner, or we were in the movie theater like we talked about earlier, and then those were types of atmospheres where those types of noises might be more irritating to other people around us. But, you know, again, like you said, what are we supposed to do? Like, it's not like we can, you know, tell the kid to be quiet. I mean, the baby's going to make noises when she makes noises. And realistically, I don't want to discourage that, because to me, like you said, that's part of their development. That's how they start to learn language and how to communicate and how to talk to us as their parents. So really, do I want to discourage my kid from developing? No. Should I care really that much about what other people think when my baby's making all these randomly, hilariously awesome noises? No. I mean, realistically, that's just them doing their thing. So I think I need to just kind of get it out of my head that I'm bothering other people, because really it comes with the territory.
And I think also you get nervous because you're not around the baby as much as me. Like, I take her out. I try to take her out probably like every day. Mm-hmm. Like every chance I get, I try to take her out. you know, for her to, you know, be out and see the world and, you know, whatever. And so for me, it's just so second nature. At first, I got a little nervous, and at first I was like, oh, you know, now that she's really talking or trying to talk, you know, she's a little bit more loud. But then when I was at the store the other day, I was like, screw it. I mean, like, you can't really do much with a baby, and I think they're absolutely hilarious, and I can't stop laughing. And
Yeah.
and I mean, I was in a kid store anyway, so I mean, it didn't really make a difference. But I've been in stores too where I've heard other babies, even before we had our own.
Of course.
Heard other babies jibber jabber, and there's just something about a baby trying to talk and making all these cooing sounds and all these like random sounds that it just like, no matter how old you are, they really do melt your heart. It's like watching those YouTube videos of like a baby just power laughing, and I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of baby it is. When a baby giggles, it just like makes you want to giggle back. Like,
Yeah.
and that's sort of how I feel when she talks. Like, I just can't help but chuckle every time she's making all these sounds.
The other thing that I really enjoy, or have enjoyed, is being able to share my interests with Zoe. So, like, for example, watched hockey games together and basketball games, and she sat here with us during the Super Bowl. I think she was born like just the week before the Super Bowl was on or whatever. You know, and obviously I've had her, you know, I've tried to expose her to a few different things that I've been interested in. Like, you know, she's hung out with me while I played video games. She's hung out with me while I've watched certain movies and TV shows and certain, you know, things online. We've talked about, you know, sports. And I know she doesn't understand all this stuff. I know that she's obviously just soaking it in like a sponge. But it's really cool to just have that being that you can sort of share part of yourself with. Some of it she'll adapt, some of it she'll take in and use it to become as part of her. And I'm sure there's some things where she'll be opposed to having an interest in when she gets older. Like, she just won't care about it. But honestly, to me, it's just fun to be like, hey, here's what Dad likes. Dad likes sports. Dad likes video games. Dad likes technology. Dad likes all this other random stuff. And it's just really cool to have that being where I can kind of share that stuff. The funniest thing that I've started doing, which I love doing with her, is I'm a big Star Wars geek, as I'm sure you've probably already figured out. I don't know if I've talked about Star Wars much, but she loves when I do an impression of Jabba the Hutt from Return of the Jedi.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's so funny. I just do the voice, and I obviously I don't know any of the actual words that he uses in the movie.
I don't think anybody does.
But I'm sure there are people out there that know it.
No.
But anyway, I love just pretending to do the voice and do the laugh, and and every time I do it, she just starts power laughing so hard, like it's the funniest thing in the world. And I'm like, I'm sure if I did that not as often with Angela or somebody else who I'm close to as often as I do it with Zoe, they would be sick of it. But for her, every single time I do it, she just cannot stop laughing.
I know.
It's the funniest thing.
Well, she's all about facial expressions, and she's all about sounds, right? So it must be how your face changes when you make those sounds.
Yeah.
And she just thinks it's absolutely hilarious.
Well, and you know what? I've noticed, especially now that I've started doing videos and watching myself on videos and things like that, my face is very expressive when I do things.
And she's very expressive. She
Yes.
gets that from you.
Oh, she totally does. But I've noticed that even when you can usually tell by my face when I'm like focusing on something or when I'm doing something that's a little bit more difficult for me that I'm trying to do flawlessly. Like I've got that concentration face that I'm always doing. I've noticed that with myself. I've noticed myself have different expressions when I'm feeling a certain way, and she totally gets that from me. And probably the face that I make when I do that I do the voice for her, it just, the two together just create this hilarious thing for her that she just can't stop laughing about.
Yeah, no, she's all about faces, and I mean, babies will be all about faces for quite a while, but it's just it's funny to watch, and it's funny, you know, it's really neat to see from an outside perspective of like watching her bond with you. Like I remember in the beginning, you know, wasn't so much that you weren't bonding with her, but I think it was a lot more difficult because she was so little, and most of the time she slept and whatever. But now that she's older, I feel like you're bonding with her like on a totally different level. Like it's just, it's like night and day. Like, I mean, you can only bond with a 6-week-old to a certain extent, but then to watch someone bond with a 4-month-old is just, it blows my mind. It's such a neat feeling.
It's funny because one of the things, like, whenever you start sharing big announcements with friends and family and other people, everyone's always got an opinion on everything. Like, people share their opinions about when we were getting married. People share their opinions about when we told them that we were having a baby. Like, there's always these people that will share their insights, whether it's solicited or not. And some of it's valuable, some of it we don't find as valuable. But one of the things that I did hear a lot of before we had Zoe is that she's going to be a daddy's girl. And that's just, to me, apparently, because I'm one of 2 boys, there were no girls in my family except for my mom and stepmom. I never understood that dynamic, because for me it was always like me and my brother, we hung out together. And so we never really we never saw the daddy's girl dynamic. But I'm starting to realize now that even though she's only 4 months old, like, I've already noticed that that's starting to happen. Like, there are definitely times where she just latches on to me, like, super hardcore, and it's just like, she can't help but want to be around me. And I can only imagine when she gets older how much more she'll want to continue doing that, whether it's, watching me shave in the morning, whether it's wanting to come with me to work and say, Daddy, I want to come to work with you, or wanting to show me about all the great things that she's done in school when she's older, and how, any A's that she's gotten on assignments or papers or whatever. Like, I can see that already starting to become a thing. And it just blows me away that, you can create such an attachment to something or to someone so soon that, they become your whole world. And I'm sure she feels that way about us, and I certainly feel that way about her.
Yeah, I think that, like, in the beginning, I mean, babies gravitate, and their bond with their mom is really strong.
Mm-hmm.
But now that she's older, and I definitely notice a bit of a shift, and it's kind of nice. It gives me a break, but it's just really nice to have her get super excited to see you.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love it when she, when there's moments where she is with you and then wants to be with me, and vice
Mm-hmm.
versa, when she is with you, it is such a neat feeling, because it's a different, it's almost like it's a different kind of relationship, like a different bond.
Right.
Like, I see her all day, so I mean, I already know what that's like. But then to see her just go super crazy-eyed and super excited to see you, because it just looks like a different kind of bond than what she bonds with me. And I know that it was hard in the beginning for bedtime routines and things like that. Like, she really needed me to do it, I think. But now that she's older, it's like she really likes it when you do it.
Yeah.
Which is really nice to see.
You mentioned having time to yourself and sort of how difficult it can be. How have you found the support system that you've gotten from, because we did prenatal classes before we had Zoe, and Angela created a little niche group with the other moms from that prenatal class, because obviously they were all going through the same thing roughly around the same time. Like, they all had, 4 or 5 moms all had babies within, like, from top to bottom, I think it was like a 2-month window.
Yeah,
that all the babies were born within.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, it's I just wanted to ask sort of what your how have you found that support system with the other moms around dealing with, things that you're dealing with your kids, and being able to kind of relate to those other women around sort of what you guys are going through.
The support system's been fantastic. I mean, so phenomenal. I mean, I recommend anybody who attends a prenatal group, stick with those moms. Like, form a bond, form a time to see each other afterwards, because I would have been okay not having a group, but I I would have been a little bit lonely. I would have been a little bit more bored. I think I would have been a lot more stir crazy. And having a bond with those other women, having babies around the same time and the age groups being very similar, getting together a couple times a week or at least once a week has been amazing. We're constantly communicating. If we're not seeing each other in person, we're at least communicating almost on a daily basis about what we're going through or what issues might come up or what concerns might come up or just how the day is going.
Right.
And that's a relief. And it's nice to know that there's other people in our group that are going through similar things, so you don't always feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think the challenging part to it, though, and I wouldn't even call it a challenge because it's not really a challenge, but the part that I feel I don't fit in quite well is the fact that, first of all, Zoe's the only girl amongst the other babies. And second, her developmental stage right now is similar but different all at the same time compared to the boys. I feel like there's more of a connection and more of a similarity with the boys being the babies, where their sleep cycles are relatively the same, or their fussiness is relatively the same, or when one of them is going through something, the other ones follow. Where I feel like Zoe is just kind of on the outskirts as far as where she's at. And it's not to say that she's developing that much better or faster or worse than the other boys. It's that she's a completely different personality.
Yeah.
So when the boys, I feel like the boys are more similar in the fact that they fuss around the same thing, and they fuss around the same time, and they nap around the same time, and they, so their feedings are around the same time, where Zoe is the only one, as far as I know, is sleeping on a different schedule, or napping on a different schedule, or, so I feel like I don't connect in the same way as far as some concerns that might come up, but I connect in the same way that if our timing isn't quite right, it's like the others have been there and done that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there is still a connection in very similar situations, but I don't feel like she's the same as the boys. I feel like she's kind of in left field.
One of the things I've felt is that after hearing some of the stories that you've shared through the rest of the mom group, and I'm not going to get any specifics because I don't want to divulge anybody's personal lives, but it's one of the things that I've come to appreciate is you hear all these horror stories, or you hear I should say horror stories, but you hear all these challenges that so many different parents have with their kids around things like bottle feeding and nursing and sleeping and burping and whatever other issues that these parents can have as they're going through their development. And you see some of them firsthand in some of the other parent groups that we've been connecting with through the prenatal classes. But the thing that I've come to realize is that when you hear about their stories compared to our stories, I feel like we have it so much easier than the other parents in the prenatal group, because the stories that they're telling us make me feel that we've got it so much easier. Like, they're dealing with other issues around babies that, behave negatively around certain things, like being in the car, or they have a hard time feeding a certain way, and all these little challenges, and it's just like, we don't have any of that. Like, we've got it so good, and we should be so grateful for the lack of problems that we've had, that it just makes me almost feel, I feel like I have no right to complain about anything.
Well, that's sort of where I was kind of going with my long-winded answer to your question, is that I'm not to say that Zoe is any better or is in a better place. I just feel like...
But she is.
I just feel that she's just not at the same... difficulty as some of others would experience. And I feel that, you know, as much as I can chime in and help and support, which is what I try to do,
of course,
because it's all you can do, and offer some advice that might have worked for our little one and hope that it works for their little one. But really, I feel that a lot of the times I just kind of just sort of offer more support than I can advice, because I'm not going through the same thing, and I wish that, you know, we're all a little bit more similar, but we're not. And every baby develops, and every baby has their own sort of challenges along the way. It was kind of like a running joke with the other moms, actually, that Zoe might be so good now, and she could be very, you know, she's considered more of an easygoing baby, but then wait till she gets to be a toddler, and then, you know, everything will
all hell's gonna break loose.
And everything will go out the window, and then the boys will sit on the sideline and watch us deal with our little girl, you know. And it's, you know, I really, like, I really love our group that we've developed, and I love the support that we have for one another, and I love hearing all the different stories that they go through versus what I go through, and vice versa. And but there are some times where I just want to just give them all a hug, because, you know, as much as I complained a little bit about, for example, swaddling babies is just such a new thing for me, and I didn't really know what swaddling was until I had Zoe, and then I'm like, well, why do I have to rely on a swaddle? Why can't I just, like, place her down to bed? But then they get that Moro reflex, or whatever you call it, where their limbs all just kind of go all weird and crazy and move at different times and all that stuff, and it wakes them up at night. But so now I can really appreciate why the swaddle thing works. But
I was on the same page with you.
Yeah, but now, you know, some of the girls in my group have stopped swaddling for a long time, and here we are still swaddling. I wouldn't say swaddling, because we're not really swaddling. She sleeps in a sleep sack, and she has her arms out and things like that now that she's rolling. But I feel like she still likes it for comfort, because it kind of keeps her nice and tight and almost like in a blanket. And of course you can't give babies blankets, and she loves being cuddly, and she loves having something around her.
Yeah.
But what I was going with that is that she's the only one, I think, that still is kind of being swaddled, where I think the rest are already sleeping without an assisted blanket of some kind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we all go through our differences, is what I was really trying to get at. But I mean, if swaddling is our only negative, then I guess we have it pretty good. I just find that some topics and some things I don't really can offer really any good advice for, other than support. And I love giving advice.
Yeah.
But
she really does love giving advice.
I do.
She loves telling people what to do.
I think. Well, it's not even that I tell people what to do. You know, I'm sure when people say, you know, I get a lot of unsolicited advice, I'm pretty sure 90% of it is because it's from me. Like, I mean, really, let's be honest.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the summary. It's actually really funny, because every day when I'm at work, because I deal with customers all day, is that I get customers that come up to me and they ask, because they all know, you know, we get a lot of the same people in the bank all the time, and they always ask me, how's Zoe doing? How's Zoe doing? How's Zoe doing? And realistically, I don't have anything to share, because it's been so easy going that I just don't have really anything exciting to tell them about. It's always like, how is she doing? She's doing amazing. How's she been? How's she sleeping? Amazing. Like, everything, I feel like like I said, we've had it so good compared to other parents that it just makes me feel, I almost feel bad that I feel that I'm in the same ballpark as some of these other parents that have had difficult kids around difficulties eating, difficulties sleeping, difficulties going to the bathroom, like all those struggles, I just can't relate to them. Not that I want to have to deal with those things, obviously. I mean, I'd rather not have to deal with them, but I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, like, I feel like things have been going so good lately that I almost feel that because things have become so regimented and the routine is there and we've got everything so well figured out right now, that eventually in the next day or so something has to turn on its head and change things up. Because one of the things that I've heard so many parents tell me is that you get a routine in place after struggling with coming up with one that works with everybody, including the baby, and then as soon as that gets in place, the baby, changes gears and everything goes out the window. That hasn't really happened to us. Like, we've got the routine, we've had the same routine now for
2.5 months.
I was going to say at least 2 months, yeah. And nothing's really changed. So I feel like there's going to be that changing of gears from the baby probably soon.
Well, the only thing, I think I find that her change, though, she is going through change. I see it every day. But I think her change is so gradual. And what I mean by that is that, for example, nap.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down, I can have her nap 2.5 hours in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's 2.5 hours next to me. So she won't do 2 hours independently on her own any longer, where she used to. And I think that's the change. And I'm used to that change, and that change has been there for about a month. I think it's second nature for me, so I don't see it really as a change, and I don't see it as this big thing that's like messing my day up. But the napping is definitely a difference.
Right.
She no longer wants to nap in the swing. She quickly decided she wasn't going to nap in her playpen when we had that out.
Yes.
She will nap in the crib, but would only do, so she will sleep all night in the crib, no problem. Napping in the crib is a little different. She will nap in the crib 30, 40 minutes at most. But she won't do 2 hours uninterrupted sleep in the crib by herself. During the day.
Right.
She will sleep 2.5 hours, 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours if I let her, if she's snuggled up next to me. And so, hands down, I can guarantee a nap in the morning if she's next to me.
Mm-hmm.
Afternoon, I can guarantee another 2-hour nap if she's next to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't guarantee another 2-hour nap in any other situation.
Yeah.
And, that's a change. Yes, it's kind of, that has become a thing in the last 3-ish weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even a bit more. It's a little inconvenient in a sense, because I used to be able to place her in her swing and she would sleep, no problem, and I could get things done. Or, I usually I would nap once with her, and the same time as her in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'd skip that to get things done around the house. Now it's like, if I want her to nap and have a good nap, it's gotta be with me, which means nothing gets done. But she'll sleep. So, I mean, really, if that's the only quote-unquote negative thing, then I can't get mad at her for that. Or, I not that I would anyways, but I can't get mad at that situation, because right now she might just want that cuddle. Like, her personality changes so often that this could be more of a they say babies at this age sleep or enact and become their own little person as part of their personality. And so this could just very well be her personality changing. Yeah. But that's a huge change, I think, going back to changes, is that if I just let her sleep in the car seat, okay, she'll sleep maybe an hour. Or if I'm doing errands, she'll sleep most of the duration of the errands.
Right.
If the only time I find that she can sleep a good couple hours in the car seat, even being at home, is after a swim. Every time.
Yeah.
Now, after a swim with you, she doesn't seem to sleep as long. But after a swim with me, she's in the car seat sleeping. I can usually get lunch made for myself, eat lunch, watch 2 episodes of something on Netflix of a show, clean up the kitchen, put away the dishes, and she's still sleeping.
Wow.
But that's after a swim.
Yeah. Well, I think we should probably wrap this up now, just because I think we've been gabbing for almost an hour now. But I just want to wrap this all up by saying that how much I appreciate what you've been doing, because for those of you that don't know, my last video we had a wager that I couldn't look after the baby and maintain the house on my own. So essentially, the baby was completely left under my care for the whole day. Angela went out with her girlfriend for lunch and shopping and all that other kind of stuff with just the 2 of them. I was in charge of the baby the whole day. I did it all by myself, and I managed to do it, but oh my god, I was so friggin' exhausted. I was dead. Like, I honestly felt like the last time I was that tired was probably in university, when after pulling like some sort of all-nighter doing an assignment or studying for exams or something stupid like that. Like, it just blows me away how much. And it's not like I was doing anything super strenuous. I didn't go to the gym that day. I didn't go do any yard work or go out or do any, like...
You managed 2 coffee
I wasn't playing any
reviews.
Spites. What's that?
You managed 2 coffee reviews.
I did. It's all in the same video, but you should watch it. I'll link it below. Yeah, like, I mean, it wasn't like it was a day of super hard activity. It's just looking after those little creatures called babies just wears you out. And honest to God, like, I couldn't have more appreciation for what you do after doing that. So thank you very much for everything that you've done for the baby. Mother's Day was just that much more of an eye-opening thing for me, because it makes me realize that mothers are crazy awesome. And it makes me appreciate what my mother did for me when I was a kid, because I'm sure I was probably no easier to deal with than Zoe's been. But anyway, I just wanted to do this sort of video this week just because it was different, a little bit of a different format. I'm going to try and figure out a way to put an audio version onto like a podcast and send out that as well. Because I know that some people would probably rather listen to this type of dialogue than watch a whole video about it. But anyway, if you did enjoy this, please leave it a thumbs up. Please give it a rating. Comment below. Do all that normal stuff that you guys normally do. And we'll see you guys in the next one. So thanks again for watching, and hope you guys have a great week. Bye.